Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. We will proceed after, at this point, a call to order. Please call the roll.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Orion.
Present.
Commissioner Banton.
Present.
Commissioner Boaz.
Present.
Commissioner Bradley.
Present.
Commissioner Peoples. Commissioner Garmendia.
Present.
Commissioner Keung.
Present.
Chair Strother.
Present.
And you have a quorum of 7.
I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Everyone has received the agenda, but there's a couple of notes of item I want to deal with on the very front end. There was an anticipated call to a public hearing on today, and the petitioner has withdrawn their petition for today. So there will be no public hearing. There will be no addressment of PDA 3322 REZ District 8. That has been withdrawn from the agenda. So with that, there will be no public hearing. So if you're here for that purpose, I just wanted to be sure you're informed of that. This is a commission meeting of its normal nature. That's the first order of business. The second order of business, before I approve the minutes. Well, no, let me go ahead and approve the minutes. If I'll entertain a motion for the minutes to be approved.
Move to approve. Banton.
Second.
It's been
Bradley.
moved by Commissioner Banton, second by Commissioner Bradley. Call for roll, please.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Orion.
Aye.
Commissioner Banton.
Aye.
Commissioner Boaz.
Abstain.
Commissioner Bradley.
Aye.
Commissioner Garmendia.
Abstain.
Commissioner Keung.
Aye.
Chair Strother.
Aye.
And the motion passes with 5 voting.
Alderman Cone as aye.
Okay.
Welcome, Alderman Cone. Welcome.
And the motion passes with 6 voting aye and 2 abstentions.
Okay, very good. And just to ensure that Alderman Cone knows that the item of the has been withdrawn that was requiring a public hearing. So there will be no public hearing this evening.
I'm familiar.
With that-
Thanks.
Okay, with that, there's 2 announcements I want to make. One is of celebratory, and the other one is a congratulations. Celebratory, we have a new commissioner online with us, Christina Garmendia, and I know I'm destroying it, but I'll let you pronounce it for us all.
Thank you very much. It's Christina Garmendia.
Garmendia. Okay, thank you and welcome. The other one is a really celebratory meeting, and she's not here to receive our kudos. But one of the commissioners that I don't think has ever or very seldom ever misses a meeting is retiring from effective as of Friday. She is not online, so please, if you have the opportunity, please give Denise Peoples a note congratulating her for her retirement and thanking her for her work on the commission. She has been a faithful member, and I am grateful for her service. And I'll no longer have to ask whose number is this online and get. This is Denise Peoples. That is her favorites call. So please let her know we will miss her, and I wish her best in retirement that many of us that are working will try to get to in our lives. With that, the next order, as I mentioned, next order, I think, Jonathan, you're standing at the podium. I think it is your item.
Well, thank you, Chair, and good evening, everyone. I am Jonathan Roper, a senior planner with the Planning and Urban Design Agency. I would first go back to the one slide before, please. I'd just like to thank you for participating in the public process that is the rezoning process, although the petition was withdrawn. The process of receiving letters and then passing those on to the commission is what happened in the process, but we do thank the community for participating in a process that is new to 2022. But with that said, I'd like to move on to the next petition, which is the Gateway South redevelopment area. This area is generally south of where you see the Arch grounds, where it's south of the Poplar Street Bridge, east of I-55, west of the Mississippi River, and north of Rutgers Street. And this area also includes the Terminal Railroad, and the existing mix of uses are different occupied and unoccupied lands, commercial buildings, and institutional. And so the proposal is to take a 94 redevelopment area and transform it into an an innovation district where it would have different features such as manufacturing, construction, also different areas for residential, recreational services, offices, retail as well. This is happening in the downtown, I will pronounce this hopefully correctly, Kosciuszko and LaSalle Park neighborhoods, and the 7th Ward. GSSTL LLC is the developer, and they're seeking a blighting and redevelopment study this evening. Next slide, please. These are this area called the Gateway South Redevelopment Area is divided into 3 different land use type categories. You'll see the design and construction, which is mainly on the left side at this point. We're looking at what was submitted for the blighting and redevelopment plan. And the right, you'll see the strategic land use plan. So we'll focus on the left real quick. On the left side, we have the design and construction, which is a lot of the business and the more industrial or the new age industrial type commercial areas. You'll see in the green, there's a bit of the entertainment, and you'll also see in the more orange colors at the top, you notice the 3 are just south of the Poplar Bridge. It's residential and recreation. Also, there's a slither just that cuts through. That, if you ever drive through there, going to a ball game, and you notice that there's a railroad tracks that actually are missing some, so a train couldn't possibly go over that. That area is where there's an old kind of trestle, if you would, that extends all the way to the MacArthur Bridge. It was referenced in the plan. So going to the right, we see the strategic land use plan, which is the part of the comprehensive plan of the city of St. Louis. And looking at redevelopment plans, we also look at compliance with the comprehensive plan as well as any neighborhood plans that are also adopted in the area by the planning commission. So in this particular case, we're looking at the strategic land use plan, and we see this specialty mixed use area, which is in the light blue, which is north at Shoto Avenue and north. So that actually corresponds with where you see the yellow. We're just talking about like the Shoto trestle, and going north where you see the residential and recreational areas and the orange. So those areas kind of correspond because the light blue with this slope mentions that the specialty mixed use area is a mix of uses of residential, commercial, and a whole types of things like downtown. So those would, all the slope and the future land use plan does correspond. Next slide, please. Just to highlight a few areas in this area, a few areas that correspond with the plan. So on the bottom right, you'll see the future land use plan according to the blighting redevelopment study, and on the left, you'll see an aerial. Excuse me. And oh, thank you. And you can see the Mississippi River. So you can see the railroad tracks and different occupied industrial areas. So those would be included and unoccupied as well. Next slide, please. And this area is the more northern area of the redevelopment plan, where you could see the Shoto, that's that trestle area as well. A number of buildings that either some occupied or others unoccupied. And you could also see the Mississippi on the east or the right side, and the Highway 5544 on the west. So that kind of caps both sides there, and you can see different land uses. Next slide. This area is also part of the Design Downtown Plan, a plan that was adopted as a neighborhood plan supplement to the comprehensive plan of the city in 2020 by the Planning Commission. And this plan, throughout the plan, was very much focused on walkability, biking, pedestrians, also connectivity between different, whether it be streets or railroad tracks or underpasses or that just cut through a walkable grid in a downtown area. And specifically even mentions, Shoto Avenue being a barrier to downtown, to the south and to the riverfront as well. And here also on the right side of the map at the bottom, you can see Shoto's Landing is highlighted there in the downtown plan as well. Next slide. So at this time, staff did find a lot of conformity with the downtown plan, and we're going to transition to a tour of the area, which is also in your staff reports, and also there are a number of pictures that are provided in the blighting study redevelopment plan as well. But here's one that staff chose to share this evening. And this is just a quick tour of the area. We could see in different areas that there's either vacant land or buildings that might be underutilized. Next slide. Just take a tour. So this is more on the north side. We can see different bridges, trestle, but also just the vegetation is very high in the areas. Next slide, please. The graffiti were on the left side, and the right side, just more of the areas that just border the riverfront. Next slide, including the flood wall. And more buildings either occupied or unoccupied as well. Next slide. And this is just south of 44 and 55. This is actually occupied by the state, I believe, but it is included in the area because it's along Broadway, of course. Next slide. And just more areas. This is more getting to the south of the redevelopment area at Rucker Street. Just the either vacant land or underutilized land. Next slide. And closer towards looking west at the site, where you can see undeveloped land, just the parking lot on the left side and a unoccupied, semi-unoccupied, but graffiti on the building on the right side. Next slide. And there's more pictures this looking down to what the view is from the south looking north of the area. Next slide. So at this point, staff finds that the area we recommend to be declared blighted, and staff finds the blighting study and redevelopment plan is in conformity with the strategic land use plan and the design downtown STL neighborhoods plan, and staff recommends approval of the blighting and study and redevelopment plan. Also, I'd like to mention that we do have representatives from the petitioner on the line here to discuss more about this and any questions that the commission may have for them.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan. At this point, again, I just want to remind for anybody that came on late, the rezoning petition for McCray has been withdrawn from the agenda, so there will be no opening, no public hearing on this. At this point, I will go through the commissioner's list to ask any questions of Jonathan or the representatives. I believe they're from GSSTL Developer. With that, Alderman Cone, any questions?
Not at the moment.
Thank you. Alderman Narayan?
No questions right now. Thank you.
Commissioner Banton?
Couple questions. Question about the actual redevelopment plan. I'm comparing this, which looks like it was prepared by a private firm, as opposed to a typical redevelopment plan that's prepared by city staff. And in terms of the urban design regulations, it seems to be next to nothing, other than it must be an attractive asset to the surrounding neighborhoods. Is there which would seem to give sort of carte blanche to the developer to do whatever they want. Is there a reason for a lack of urban design regulations as part of this plan?
That I would like to defer to the developer or LCRA.
I'll recognize either one who wants to speak at this time.
Hi, I'm Allison Gray Gunston. I am with Steadfast City, working with our client, Good Developments Group, and the developer. We actually do have a slide deck to go over if that is okay. It's basically 10 slides, or we can kind of stick with what just Jonathan put together. I'll say that we are working with LCRA and in partnership with SLDC, and design regulations will be met working through them based on what they submit to us.
Chair Strother, I don't know, in regards to their presentation, is that something that,
Jonathan, do you have access to that, or have you seen it before we permit it?
Yes, if we can, if Ellison, if that's the presentation that was forwarded earlier, we can.
I think that's, Jake, I think that's a good question. I have some same concerns. Jonathan probably should be asked some general questions about what he's presented. Like Zach talk about that they received this from LCRA, has passed it along to us. You're right. It is in a format that's been produced to generally match LCRA's format, but done by a consultant. And they do have a PowerPoint to go along with that. So I think there's going to be more questions at the end that might be easier to answer at the end. But
okay. Yeah, that'd be fine if there's going to be another chance for questions. I just like to voice that concern that, I mean, this is a gigantic area, and it's an area that certainly needs the investment. It's a really exciting project, but I don't want to, necessarily give that carte blanche to a developer when it's affecting such a large area without some sort of minimum urban design regulations. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Boas, any questions?
Boy, no questions, but I just want to echo Jake's comments.
Okay, Commissioner Bradley.
No questions, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Garmedia.
No questions.
All right, Commissioner Keong.
No questions at this time, but I do think Commissioner Banton brings up a good point. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair has no question. Well, I do for Jonathan. So and maybe Don can answer. So tell us how you proceed, the next steps of this going for us as it relates to Jake's question.
At this point, Steadfast City would give a presentation, I believe. Zach would, unless Zach had any words before, but Steadfast City would give a presentation as I did, and then more questions would proceed.
yeah, remember, this is coming to us from LCRA, so Zach should make some opening comments before the developer does, I would think.
Thank you, Don. Yes, we usually have less urban design standards on industrial type sites, but we are very open to any suggestions the Planning Commission has, and we could amend this plan moving forward. So,
Commissioner Banton, does that provide enough for you at this moment?
Well, I'd like to hear a little bit about if there is a presentation from the developer about their plans for the site, and then I certainly do have some suggestions that I think could be added. But I'd be curious, Zach. So if we pass this here tonight, I'm reading straight from the document here. It says, the redevelopment area may be developed and structures may be constructed in accordance with the requirements set forth in the redevelopment agreement or other agreement. Is that separate? Is there going to be a separate agreement from this particular redevelopment plan?
Correct. Yes, sir. The redevelopment comes after the ordinance. That's negotiated between SLDC and the developer.
Okay, so as that part of that urban design regulations could be, we would suggest that here tonight, and then you could include that in the redevelopment agreement.
Very much so.
Okay, very good.
Okay. So am I understanding we're going to see a presentation now from the,
Zach, are you ready to conclude your remarks and yield to the developer?
Yeah, I'll yield, and any further questions I can answer at the end of it.
Yeah. And this is Mr. Rowe again. I'm going to encourage the developer as they go through the presentation to do things that I expect you to do, such as remind us of some of your principles and what attracted you to this area, and the fact that one of your lead instigators and co-developers, and in fact the lead, is an architect. And so with that sort of as a setup, go through your presentation and amplify what Jake is hoping that we see inherently in your thoughts and desires for this area, but may need to be consummated in the redevelopment agreement.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
we can, and just a little bit of echo or hollowness in the microphone from you. So I'm not sure if that can be adjusted a little bit.
We will see. I thought I picked the best room with the best sound. We will see if I can do anything about that. Is that a little bit better?
We can hear you. I just wanted you to be aware of the levels, that's all.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone, for your time. Thank you to Don Rowe and to Jonathan and the planning department, the members of the planning commission, and the aldermen. I'm Allison Gray Gunston, the central region leader at Steadfast City. We're here headquartered in St. Louis. We have offices around the US in Rochester and Ohio, and we have people in Alabama. I will be presenting a slide deck today to review the Gateway South redevelopment plan. I'm also joined by John Mazio, who is a partner at Good Development Group in construction and design. We also have Chauncey Nelson, who is the community liaison. They are in the audience and they'll be available for questions after this as needed. Again, this is a large site and we definitely understand the importance of this to the city of St. Louis. It is 95 acres. It is a complex brownfield redevelopment that will revitalize the South St. Louis riverfront that is directly south of the Arch grounds. It's a key location and is one of the first things that people see when they come over from Illinois. And currently people see a desolate and underutilized space with buildings that are falling apart. But the area also has a rich industrial history, and industrial innovation is the core for this redevelopment plan. It's a transformative project aimed at re-energizing a large, currently vacant site south of the riverfront of downtown St. Louis. It is anchored around 4 goals. They want to create an innovation district centered around construction and design. This will be focused to the application of advanced manufacturing technologies and particularly off-site production. They also want to spur job creation and construction workforce development for St. Louisans. This will create an inclusive urban community and create a nationally known local knowledge base as St. Louis is positioned as the hub for construction innovation. They want to enhance the front door of St. Louis and truly take advantage of the site's history and its key strategic spot at the riverfront. They also want to attract people to the area to create a real 24/7 community with residential and recreational options, along with entertainment amenities that can keep people here to live, work, play, and innovate all within the district. The redevelopment plan is really organized around 3 districts. We have interconnected districts, but the first one is design and construction and innovation. This is really the catalyst for this entire project. It is what attracted this group to this area. The goal is to attract industry-leading companies. They want to drive job growth. And also this will generate organic demand for the other 2 districts. For recreation and residential, this is going to provide a desirable neighborhood being created and also attract both St. Louis residents and new transplants to this revitalized downtown area. The third district is the entertainment district. It's really focused around creating a new recreational center for the community with activities and community programming. I'm going to take a few minutes to kind of go over the whole construction and design innovation district and the real rationale for this focus. Say the Gateway South Innovation District is really focused on construction and design. So the history of the site was once a vibrant manufacturing hub. And we believe that this is an area that lends itself best to a use that actually includes this industrial history. The construction sector on its own is one of the world's largest industries and is expected to reach $16.6 trillion by 2025. But yet this industry hasn't experienced any significant systemic innovations or productivity gains within the last 100 years. This district will focus on innovations within this industry. It will create a co-located supply chain with industrial facilities, off-site builders, building material manufacturers, and component suppliers. This will allow this area to become a true construction hub created through logistics and distribution connections with research, incubators, prototyping facilities, and workforce training programs, all within this district. I wanted to show this aerial because one, it shows those industrial bones that we were talking about, and also its connection to the rest of the city. Obviously, this is a very important site, but it's currently vacant and is located between some of the most important landmarks in St. Louis. Gateway Arch is to the north, and along the site, Busch Stadium is both within walking distance. The Soulard neighborhood and the iconic Anheuser-Busch Brewery are located to the south of the site. And you can see from this aerial that this project really has both rail, road, and river infrastructure. This has possibly been a hindrance to past previous development attempts, but really, when you talk about strengths for logistics and distribution, this is really ranking high. The site can be a multimodal heaven. So basically, for a building export hub, it has river, it has rail, it has road, allowing for efficient transportation of materials, including componentized construction within St. Louis. If St. Louis does become this construction export hub, the buildings manufactured from this district could actually reach all corners of the United States. But we also wanted to talk about how this will also become an attraction for some of the best in class talent for the St. Louis region. It will become a talent importer, creating thousands of new jobs, not only for the local population, but also with new residents. And then focusing on innovation can also help reduce the cost to build affordable housing that will actually meet both St. Louis and the national demand. And actual innovation can reduce carbon emissions and increase sustainability through off-site construction. Then we want to focus on why design and construction and why is now the time. Again, I think we are all kind of aware of this, but as construction is the largest industry, it really has also remained the same. It's currently somewhat inefficient, expensive, and unsustainable. And the increasing labor shortage is added to project delays and cost increases, while all the while housing demand continues to increase. This kind of highlights and hints at the idea of natural construction hub. This map shows a concentration of tech companies within Silicon Valley. And when you think about industry sectors that have been successful over the last decades, a lot of them have a geographic hub, but this hasn't been possible for construction because it is really so locally focused. And historically, most construction has to occur on site. But with advances in off-site construction and improving modular construction capabilities, there's a real potential for construction innovation capital to emerge. And we are saying that St. Louis can actually be that construction innovation capital. It really already is a big construction hub. Some of the top construction and design companies working throughout the Midwest are headquartered here in this region. We are also geographically the center of the nation. We are the epicenter of multimodal freight logistics with some of the lowest shipping costs in the country. The site also has access to all 4 national interstates in the region and includes rail and river options. It has industrial heritage. This area has already seen advanced manufacturing components that you can see in Boeing and GM. And the Gateway South site will build on pre-existing factors and add in supportive programs and innovation centers. Now we wanted to talk about phase 1. This is focused on construction and design district because really this is the first crucial step to create the hub and will be the engine to drive demand for the rest of the district. It includes 12.5 acres and 1.4 million square feet of renovation and is estimated to cost around $200 million. This phase 1 component will create an estimated 1,000 jobs. And as you can see in the site map, it also includes the historic Brendan Martin building, which will be redeveloped historically into a mixed-use building. This phase will also include industrial spaces, office spaces, and community-focused spaces like incubators and workforce development programs. Talking quickly about the team has a variety of experience on major development projects on the East Coast and Central region. The Good Developments Group is a collection of real estate development industry specialists partnering with respected community leaders and regional innovators. The team holds a diverse background in development, design, and construction, and the group holds team members who previously held positions within innovation districts within the built environment. Several have direct connections to St. Louis, and they've recognized the region makes an intuitive home for logistics-heavy industry and innovation. I know that Jonathan did a great job kind of highlighting some visuals and to pull together some of what we see as important markers. You can see this is Brendan Martin. There is some significant damage, but the goal is to renovate this building as part of the phase 1 plan and retaining its historical integrity with that. Here are some additional existing sites kind of showing different levels of upkeep and vacancy levels. The redevelopment plan includes renovation of existing sites as well as new construction and infrastructure. We have some additional pictures of the older industrial infrastructure and also how kind of crisscrosses the district. And this shows how close we are to downtown core and to Busch Stadium. I did want to end on some design drawings as well. These 2 final slides are renderings from Henning Larsen, which is a renowned international architecture and design firm. The design is really aimed to combine livable spaces with active community spaces and innovative industrial buildings. This will also hopefully open up the view of the arch, and the Gateway South District aims to provide 24/7 community that encourages the flow of people throughout downtown and into the surrounding areas. This also highlights the inclusion of community spaces that will activate previously vacant and desolate areas. And really the programming will open up the area to activity to create a safe and walkable downtown community. That concludes my slides. We would love to answer questions and hear what people have to say.
I thank you for that. And what we'll do is, again, I'll go back to the commission for questions, and I'll start with Alderman Cone and then follow with Alderman Narayan. So Alderman Cone, any questions following her presentation?
Yeah, so I recall when I first saw this, or it was publicized in St. Louis, that there was a component that engaged the riverfront, and so is this not part of phase 1? And it sounds as though phase 1 is going through irrespective of the future plans of potential riverfront development. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll say phase 1 is focused on those 12.5 acres. It is out far enough from the flood wall. I will say that we have engaged and talked to the Army Corps of Engineers to talk about any potential future development along the river. And the river is an important part of why they picked this area.
So is that part of phase 1, or is it not? I'm asking specifically
the phase 1
because
is just that the 12.5 acres that I highlighted. It is the Brendan Martin, the 101 Shoto building, and then also some manufacturing components that are not along the riverfront or are not including actual riverfront development.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions at this time.
Thank you, Alderman
Mr.
Cone.
Chair.
All right, Alderman Narayan.
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Banton.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I A great presentation, Allison. A couple of questions just regarding design and sort of infrastructure improvements. So your renderings, super cool. They have all of the hot button items, bike paths, trees, walkability. In terms of implementing all of that, how are you as a development group planning to do that in terms of redoing streets, adding in public space? Is there a plan to maybe work with Great Rivers Greenway as part of their riverfront greenway and extending that further south through this neighborhood? If you could talk a little bit just about infrastructure improvements.
Yes, that is a big need in the area. A lot of the initial building plan is focused around infrastructure improvements within the area. We have had discussions with MSD, with MoDOT. We've met with Great Rivers Greenway to discuss connecting into their current plans. We've also had discussions with the National Park Foundation to make sure that this redevelopment really builds on what they are doing as well. I think we are fully working out and developing what this full infrastructure improvement plan will look like, but hasn't been fully determined yet. I don't know if John on the call has any more specific designs or adds to specifically an infrastructure kind of conversation.
No, I think you said it well, Allison. Unless there's further questions, I could provide more color on.
So is your hope to include some of these infrastructure improvements as part of phase one?
Part of the infrastructure improvement will be a vital part of that, of the phase one plan, specifically making sure that the roads are in a usable condition for infrastructure and industrial manufacturing. We'll have to be able to make sure trucks can get in and out. But there isn't a full plan about what that process is going to look like. I know that we are going to be working with the groups that we kind of talked about earlier, MoDOT, MSD, Bi-State, and making sure that this fits into their development plans and to make sure that we're efficiently kind of doing these updates.
Okay, one last question. Are there any buildings in the project site that are listed on the historic register, and are there plans to demo any current buildings, or is the plan to renovate and revitalize where applicable?
Yeah, so the only building currently on the historic register is the Crendon Martin building. That will be renovated, and we are planning on applying for historic tax credits.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Banton. Commissioner Boas.
No questions from me. It would just be great to see that vision realized.
Thank you, Commissioner Bradley.
No questions. Thank you.
All right, and Commissioner Garmendia.
Yes, I appreciate the presentation. One of the points I want to bring up for your phase one is just maintaining access to Sullivan Boulevard. It's one of the only access points to the kind of riverfront wharf. And so just being aware of that when you're planning your phase one, if you block that road, there's not really many alternative routes. So that was, I don't know if that's a question, but more of a comment. And
That's a great point. I think the whole goal is to make more access points.
yes, so I think that would be an important part of that. I also had similar to Commissioner Banton, questions about streets, just because there's not that many usable ones in that area. And I, in the site, the renderings, I know it's very popular to just kind of erase cars and show pedestrian life. But yes, I had additional questions about kind of what would be the plan for cars in that area during phase one. And so parking, street use, and how that'll balance with bike and pedestrian use.
I know that the design plan really does, you're right, those kind of renderings focus on, walkability, trails, biking. But there are going to be a lot of jobs and office workers and people hopefully coming down and enjoying the district. I think maybe I don't have any specific notes about parking plans as of yet. I'm not sure. John might be able to add in some commentary to what the parking plans would be. But that is something that we want to make sure there is a healthy way to coexist and have that kind of walking connections, but also obviously want to make it easy for people to get to work.
Yeah, exactly. Phase one, there's enough lots to satisfy the needs with surface parking, and as we build out through the years, the further phases, we'll build structured parking as needed. That's the plan. and we're trying to focus those renderings show a couple of exciting sections of the project, right, where we're trying to focus those bike paths and walking paths, but the idea is to keep a solid traffic paths through and around some of the areas that we're trying to isolate and activate for pedestrians.
Thank you. And my second question is, what phase will those railway, the railway vision be most important? It didn't sound like it was important for phase one, but I'm not as familiar with how you'd negotiate the use of the railways in that area. But just what phase of the development would that really be coming into play that we should be aware of?
John, you want to take that one as well?
Sure. We're currently we've connected with Union Pacific and Terminal. Those are the two operators that are responsible for the active rail on site. We're working with potential tenants. We're talking about how we could activate the existing rail on grade and create spurs potentially where you can have direct deliveries in and shipping out. And as Allison outlined, that's a piece of this that makes this really enticing to a lot of groups nationwide.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Keung.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Can you speak more on the engagement process leading up to you all submitting the plans today, and then what type of engagement will be added moving forward as well? So it's kind of a two-part question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Say that when we talk about the community here, the site itself is largely vacant, but we have taken the lead and really reached out to a lot of community businesses, community organizations. We've collected a lot of support letters. I would say specifically, we have one of the true kind of community leaders within this area is the St. Mary of Victory's Church. We've met with them. They've received a kind of an overview of the development and are excited about getting involved in supporting this redevelopment plan. We've also met with a couple of neighborhood associations that are around there and are going to be meeting with them more. I would say a lot of this initial planning has been around feasibility of the industrial along and feasibility of the construction and design innovation district. A lot of the community engagement, I think, will bring in even more during the kind of community planning stage. I think within Kern & Martin, there will be some important community components about and getting people's ideas and support for those are going to be important going forward. We're hoping to really work with the Soulard Restoration Group, the Soulard Business Association, LaSalle Park, and Lafayette Square Community Associations as some key members. We've also received support from a lot of local businesses, Terminal Railroad, some of the ones around the district, and also some important organizations that are around, like NAACP, Gateway Arch to Park, Construction Forum, the Clark Fox Foundation, TRRA, Skate Laborious, and Tech Artista are groups that we've kind of talked with. And again, something that we've talked about earlier is just making sure that we are also working with some of the organizations like Great Rivers Greenway, Arch to Park Foundation, MoDOT, MSD, and making sure that this kind of all kind of works together. But that's our overview of what we've done for community engagement so far.
Before you talk about, I guess, if you wanted to add anything else in terms of engagement moving forward, a demographic I didn't hear you mention were artists. Is that a group you've all been in touch with as well? And the reason why I bring up artists in particular is because of the flood wall and a lot of the art events that happen along the riverfront.
So we are very supportive of the flood wall and that graffiti wall. I think that's a vibe that's going to continue throughout the innovation district. Currently, the demographics within this area are pretty non-existent with people. I'll also say, when you're talking about the community, we do want to bring in kind of that kind of art aspect within those community spaces. And I think that's going to be an important part of some of those designs that we have along the way about adding some art to.
Yeah, I hear you. I think this area has a lot of more transient local folks from other areas that come in and visit. But I do think there are folks that utilize these spaces pretty regularly that would be good to engage proactively because we don't want to miss any opportunities of understanding current uses. So if there's anything that I can do or folks on the Planning Commission to help make those connections, of course, I'd be happy to connect you to some artists I already have in mind.
Well, that would be great. I would love to have a follow-up call about who we can bring in. I know that we want to make sure that we keep the paths and the usable spaces that people are using to get to the riverfront and to get to the trails really remain kind of available to the community during this time.
Yeah, thank you for that offer. We'd love to follow up. Sorry, Allison.
No, you're good. Thanks, John.
Any other questions, Commissioner Kong? Okay. Chair Strother, I have a couple of simple questions. One is, I believe it's Chauncey Nelson. Are you part of this team? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you tell us where you fit in and anything that has not been said that you think should be said?
Yeah, so I came on this team as a community liaison, working primarily to identify some of the organizations and that Allison had just previously mentioned. Currently, just going around with some of the surrounding community organizations and neighborhood organizations. So as of recently, just went to the Lafayette Square neighborhood organization and got a verbal support from them as well. And looking to also meet in January with the Soulard Preservation Committee as well. And then also identifying some of the institutions that we look to engage with around the workforce development components.
Thank you. And Allison, is there anybody else on the line that's part of the team that we've not heard from?
I do think that some people jumped on just to watch and support. I think John and Chauncey were kind of our speakers, but we have some other people, but
Okay.
I think most of our notes have been kind of made.
All right. The second question I wanted to deal with is this nebulous number of 1,000. I am always concerned about the human capital and human resource of any project. Can you kind of give us a demographic of what you said? 1,000 jobs. Are
Mhm.
they transient jobs? Are they new jobs? What does that demographic look like? And what is it, where does that come from?
Yes, I'll say PGAV created an economic model that we pulled these numbers from. It's actually estimated to be around 1,200 FTEs, so full-time equivalents, 210 in retail, 265 in office, and 750 for industrial. I would like to speak the most towards that industrial jobs. A lot of the groups that we were working with have a high level of what we would call accessible jobs. So those available to those with a high school diploma and without a college degree. I think there's going to be a big focus on workforce development programs to make sure that we are including the people who live in the neighborhood and around the neighborhood, and also including populations within St. Louis that need access to former jobs that maybe would have been construction and manufacturing, but can grow into additional roles as well.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I heard you say 1,200 was your job numbers, and then you gave a breakdown. Can you give that a little bit, repeat that a little bit? Because I'm having a difficult time hearing you.
So sorry, it's 210 for retail. It is 265 for office and $750 for industrial.
Okay. And is that industrial you're considering construction?
It's within advanced manufacturing components. So that's within the construction and innovation design
Okay.
companies.
And you proceed these, you see these as new creation, not migration of jobs from another part of the city or another part of the area, or?
I'll say we are currently in conversations with tenants. I think the goal is to bring in larger companies that are big advanced manufacturing construction groups that are not currently existing in St. Louis.
Okay. Because having some history in construction, one of the hardest things to do right now is fill construction jobs. So I'm a little concerned. I had a little concerned about where that was leading. With that, I have no more questions. Jonathan, I'll turn it back over to you because the request was really about blighting, but I think the presentation was definitely well worth it. I think Christina said it best, and Commissioner Blanton said it. Putting the pictures up is great, but we want to see the reality of what comes out of that. So at this point, Jonathan, you want to go ahead and read the recommendation?
You turn it over to me first.
And Chair, before we do that, I'm going to turn it over to Don, please.
Okay. A couple thoughts and concluding remarks. This is a large area, and glad to see this team be formed to address it. So it's going to take a little while. I've seen a lot of creative energy. I'd love to thank the formation of the team to be including city officials to see some of the things that are thoughts in progress, particularly Meg Listow to be thinking about the historic preservation aspects of this. I've seen your enthusiasm about the artist part of this. I want to reiterate a couple things from the couple commissioners said. It is a former industrial area. It will be a mixed-use area with a certain degree of funkiness, and some of the renderings we've seen are going to be pretty spectacular. So I think being the historic aspect of industrial, we still need design standards to go forward. So I appreciate the comment about the redevelopment agreement having those. So it is important to realize that all these permits that occur in this area will be routed to LCRA for design review. And what I'm going to offer up is that I'm going to appoint Scott Ogilvie to sort of be a middleman to help with the commissioners that might want to help refine some ideas for suggestions at the time of LCRA and the redevelopment agreement. And in my observation in looking at the redevelopment plan, there's really a little bit of melding of design type standards that have been shown in the sustainability portion of it. So I think there's a lot of suggestions that have sort of put us on target today. Will help Scott to work with the commission to galvanize those things and feed them to Zach at the proper time.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Don. So with that, Jonathan, go ahead and reread the recommendation at this point, please.
Well, thank you, Chair. Planning staff recommends the area to be declared blighted, and staff finds the blighting and the redevelopment plan is in conformity with the strategic land use plan and the design downtown STL neighborhoods plan, and recommends approval of the proposed blighting and redevelopment area.
Thank you, Jonathan. With that, you've heard the recommendation of the staff. I'll entertain a motion if there is one.
I move to approve the redevelopment plan.
Commissioner Kyung will second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Banton, seconded by Commissioner Keong. Call for vote, please.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Commissioner Banton.
Aye.
Commissioner Boaz.
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley.
Aye.
Commissioner Garmendia.
Aye.
Commissioner Keong.
Aye.
Chair Strother.
Aye.
And the motion passes with all present voting aye.
Well, we appreciate it, and we look forward to this, seeing where the next steps takes us with that going forward. Having removed the other item previously, and Jonathan, I think they're just some delegated items, so I will turn it over to you and John if you have any comments at this time.
Just no comments on it. Just one's a streetification of an unnamed alley, and another is a blighting study under 1 acre and under $1 million for a home, but otherwise nothing else to report on those.
Mr. Chairman, I do have some informational items today. One is Jonathan is standing before you here. He's worked so hard today, I'm almost amazed that he can still stand up, because today was a hectic day with a bunch of hard work for particularly the resolution and preparing for the public hearing that we're not having at the last minute with the withdrawal, partly from them reading our report, wanting to digest our report, partly by knowing there are how many public comments that we get in letter form?
About 104, 103 being in favor, 101 being in opposition.
Yeah. So a heck of a lot of work by Jonathan today for doing that. Much appreciative of that. And that's a good segue into making a staffing report that you've seen it in email, but we have 2 budgeted positions. It's been a while since Cecilia left one of them, so that was a vacancy. And these 2 positions have now been filled. Jonathan, effective on Monday, is being promoted into a city planning executive position within the agency. And his sub attention will be to neighborhoods, the neighborhood planning effort that we've had somewhat on abeyance while we've been short-staffed. Jonathan will lead that effort. So 3 cheers to Jonathan for that. The second is there's an observer that's been on the call today, Miriam Keller. I'll ask her to, and Scott to release her to be able to introduce herself a little bit. She will join us on January 3rd, although participating by checking in on some things like today and some other events between now and January 3rd to get oriented. She will also come into the city planning executive role and be in the general direction of all planning activities, general planning and design. So we welcome Miriam, and I'd like her to welcome and introduce herself briefly to all the planning commissioners. So Scott and the chair, if you could recognize Ms. Keller to do that, I appreciate it.
Okay, I will call on Miss Miriam if she would come. Is she in office or is she just online?
Yeah, I'm actually online here.
Oh, there
I don't know if
go.
you can hear me.
Yes.
Oh, great. Yeah, well, good evening, commissioners. Like Don said, I'll be joining the PDA team on January 3rd, so that first Tuesday after the New Year holiday. Yeah, couldn't be more excited to join the city in this role. I know there's a lot of work ahead, and my goal is to come up to speed as fast as I possibly can to help push that work forward. Just the tiniest bit about me here. My most recent position was with Development Strategies in St. Louis, where I helped lead projects related to housing policy and urban design, as well as neighborhood and citywide planning. And actually several years ago, had the pleasure of working for the city on implementation of the city's sustainability plan. And that's where I first met Don and also Commissioner Boas, as it has it. So I think that's enough about me. And again, just very excited to work with you all and look forward to getting to know you.
Miriam, I'm going to ask you to tell us what drew you to St. Louis originally and what drew you to, I'll put it this way so you know what I'm queuing up for you, to go back to my central hometown of Boston, Cambridge. Oops, go ahead.
Oh, sure. Originally came to St. Louis to study architecture at Washington University. Never practiced, not an architect, but have the benefit of that experience, and just fell in love with the city when I moved here and got to know it. Originally from Columbus, Ohio, and moved to Cambridge to study urban planning and public policy at Harvard, but then wanted to come back after that and came back after that. And glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Glad we were able to recruit you and that you will be with us full-time on January 3rd. So, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Thank you, Don. To Miriam, first off, welcome back. Be careful what you ask for. You may just get it, that whole thing with the team, but you've got a great team to work with that. Jonathan, congratulations on your promotion. You have done a yeoman's job and we appreciate your work. If you'd allow me just a privilege here, I want to be a spindle for both groups. First to the commissioners, let me say thank you for this year. You all have done great work and I know it has not been easy. We've been on Zoom for what now, almost 3 years, 2-3 years now. Not the pleasure of each other's company, but yet we've been able to continue to do the work of the city on behalf of the residents. And I appreciate everyone's commitment. Again, we're going to miss Denise, but we are celebratory in her retirement. And again, we are welcoming Christina to the commission. Already know that you're going to be on board and we welcome that very much. And now to pivot to the other side, I want to say thank you to the staff. You all have definitely done yeoman's work every evening. As Don said, with the movement of Jonathan up and all the work that comes in and prepping for things, and all of a sudden at the last moment they get yanked off the table. I realize how frustrating that is. But for the commission, speaking on their behalf to the staff, Don, to you and your staff, we want to say thank you for all the work. With that, no matter how you celebrate this holiday, I'm sorry, did I hear a call? With that, no matter how you celebrate the holiday, be it Christmas, be it Kwanzaa, be it Hanukkah, whatever it is, or just time with your family, I hope that you have a great and safe holiday. I hope the New Year's is prosperous for you. And please stay safe so that you don't bring COVID back to your space or any other of these crazy illnesses that seem to just want to continue to ride. But I wish all of you the best over the holiday. If it is just a family or a religious celebration, whatever you do, please be safe and enjoy yourself. We will resume on January the 11th. That is the next meeting, I believe, on calendar. And Michelle will send us out information accordingly. With that, I will entertain a motion to close the meeting.
So moved by Commissioner Kim.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded. Thank you for that. And the meeting is adjourned, and happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy holidays. Congratulations, Jonathan. Welcome, Miriam.
Thank you.
Ditto.
Good night.
Thanks,
Yeah,
everyone.
somebody knows Commissioner Boyaz. I'm scared of that one. Thanks, Tracy. Have a good holiday.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.